Oh, what is up, my people? It is me, your boy. What's up, Riv? Back with the ninth episode of the podcast, which, if you're asking me, it's kind of mind blowing that it took me this long to get to 9 episodes. But I'm also kind of proud of getting to 9 episodes because that means we're one away from 10, and obviously, but what that really means is we're almost in the double digits. Like, that's super cool to me. We almost got the podcast into double digit episode numbers. And yeah, I know it's only a handful of listeners at the moment, but still, I appreciate the fuck out of the handful of people that do listen. Y'all are really awesome. Y'all are what's up. And yeah, I'm glad that we can do this together, and I'm excited to keep going on this journey. Um, I'm I'm gonna be a little honest. This episode might be a little bit on the shorter side because I'm cutting it a little close on time right now. I got some uh, prior obligations I got to take care of here in a little bit, but it's almost Halloween, you guys. It's almost the end of October already, and I wanted to do at least one more spooky themed episode for Halloween. I know that paranormal and spooky themed stuff isn't something that's necessarily foreign to the podcast, but dude, it's the spooky season right now. Like, it's the perfect time for it. So, what I really wanted to talk about today is I want to talk about fears. Let's talk about our fears, man. Our hopes, our dreams, our prospects, but not really all the other stuff. But we are going to talk about fear. I want to talk about fear in excuse me, let me back that up. I want to talk about fear in the sense of rational fears and irrational fears. And I also want to discuss a little bit about this article that I read previously about how certain scientists hypothesize that fear could be genetically ingrained into our system, which is really interesting. It's a super cool read. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But if you've tuned in to any of the podcasts previously, then you know what time it is right now. That's right. Before we get too far into the segments or the podcast as a whole, we got to do my favorite segment, the beginning of the bit, bong grip. So today we got the old trusty L joint water rig, I guess. I don't know. I was trying to use fancy terminology, and it's a bong. It's like a handheld small bong, but I love it. And the weed of the day is ice cream cake. I'm not, I think I say this every episode, but I'm not sure if we've smoked this one on the podcast previously. But ice cream cake does lean a little more on the indica side. It has, I think, birthday cake as one of the crosses in it. So it definitely has more of that kind of gassy, peppery kind of flavor to it, which I fucking love, if I'm being honest. It's pretty tasty. Like, if I'm being honest, ice cream cake probably isn't like the first strain of weed that I would go for at the available dispensary, but I still fucking love it nonetheless. It's not like if you end up with ice cream cake that it's going to be a bad day. It's still a win in my book. But another funny thing about it is actually I get it from the dispensary I work at. I don't want to name it because none your business, whatever. But the abbreviation that we use for ice cream cake is ICC, which reminds me of World of Warcraft, the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. Like, the big end game dungeon was Ice Crown Citadel, and that is the abbreviation for that too, is ICC. So every time I see the ice cream cake strain, I always think, oh, it's that Ice Crown Citadel strain. I'm like, they know what's up. They used to play the best WoW expansion there ever was. They're real people. But no, uh, yeah, that's my rambling about how ingrained World of Warcraft still is in my mind. I haven't played that shit in like months, like a good couple of months, and that shit still pops up every now and then. Even when I'm just trying to smoke weed, like, can a man just smoke some weed, get on with his day? But anywho, let's do the beginning of the bit bong rip. Got our fresh bowl of ice cream cake. If you partake, feel free to take a hit with me at this time here. Feel free to smoke at any time in the podcast. It's not like we have specific deadlines or points where you're only allowed to smoke during the podcast. But yeah, let's do it, folks. Cheers. Let me mark this on my software because I'm getting better at it. And let's take this hit. Ice cream cake. Let's do it. Perfect. Perfect. Got a nice, clean, milky hit off of that bowl. I just recently cleaned the bowl piece out like pretty damn good. So it hits really well. And yeah, super tasty strain. Definitely notice the myrcene terpenes in there because it has such like a heavy, heavy like black pepper kind of flavor to it. Not a bad thing. I like that flavor, but that's the news, folks. So anyway, let's get into the spooky season topic of today, which, as mentioned previously, is fear. And uh, let's just start with like the basics. Or I want to talk about like fear, but like phobias, I guess more so specifically. I want to focus on like phobias, rational and irrational phobias. The general theme of today's podcast will be fear as a whole, but I want to talk about phobias and start off with that. I figured, fuck it, why not? Like, let's go into the definition of what a phobia is. Let's look at the origin of the word as well, and let's just jump right into it, you guys. Okay, so a phobia is an extreme or irrational fear or aversion to something. So essentially, being like just super extra terrified of something. Like, for instance, I'm not scared of snakes, like scared of snakes, but I did see a snake in the grass one time and it did make me jump back a bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like that shit freaked me out. But people who would have like a snake phobia would literally be like collapsing in the presence of a snake, like petrified with fear, like not even being able to control themselves kind of thing. That's like a more of an extreme kind of phobia, but that's essentially what a phobia is. It's just having a more extreme fear of something. But yeah, and got the definition of phobia. So let's see, where did the word phobia even come from? Like what is it? The etymology. That's what the word is. Let's look at the etymology of it. Where did this come from? What is the origin? Who made this weird fucking word? And we got that right here. The word phobia is actually a Greek word. It comes from the ancient Greeks, shout out to them. Epiton Kyrie. I took an honors Greek class in high school, passed it by the skin of my teeth, and it wasn't a bad class, like I didn't do very well in the class, but now I can like read Greek. I can't understand it. I can't translate it, but I can read Greek with pretty good pronunciation. So I say that's some kind of win at the very least. I could bullshit my way through a Greek situation, maybe. But back to it. The word phobia is a Greek word, and it comes from the Greek word phobos, which means aversion, fear, or morbid fear. So, just like I was saying, just being extra, extra terrified of something, regardless of what it is. Phobias, they can come from, just some people just naturally have certain fears towards things, or phobias can be trauma related. It's unfortunate, but our brains are very, very good at putting associations to experiences and things, whether those associations be good, positive or negative. And sometimes those things stick around for a long ass time and they affect people in the form of phobias. But yes, so we got that here. The word phobia means extreme or irrational fear or aversion to something. And the word phobia comes from the Greek word phobos, meaning aversion, fear, or morbid fear. So yeah, now we learned something new today, you guys. I'm fucking proud of myself, and I'm proud of you too. Look at us. We just be out here learning and shit. Damn, look at this journey. It's wild as hell. But so yeah, I wanted to use that to lead into some phobias that I have myself. I would say the phobia that affects me, or I said I want to talk about rational and irrational. I guess the rational. No, I guess I'll be honest. I have a fear of blood. When I think of phobias and things like that, that is the first thing that pops into mind. I don't faint at blood, thank goodness, but I do get really weak. It makes me cringe really easily. Like I feel just very weak when I see, like, even if I'm just watching like a movie, let's say it's like a horror movie and a character gets their throat cut or something like that will make me just like super weak and cringy and groany, and it's not good. Eh, I hate blood. I hate it. I'm a hemophobiac. I think that's the term for it. But It's just grosses me out. I like to I don't say I like to, but I joke around that I must have died in a past life through bloodletting or blood loss just because I that's what I feel like whenever I see situations, even if it is just it's only really ever in TV and stuff like that where there's a lot of blood, but it still makes me feel weak as if I'm losing my blood and I hate the feeling. I hate it. There's um there's an episode of Bob's Burgers. I think it was the Halloween episode for last year. So, tis the season, go check that episode out. But long story short, Linda and Bob end up donating blood on Halloween. And it's all vampire themed and stuff like that. That's the whole point of the joke is, they're vampires donate or you're donating your blood to vampires. And they hook him up to take his blood and they leave the little truck that they're doing the blood drive in. And as he's sitting there, he starts freaking out and thinking, "Oh man, they're taking too much blood. I'm gonna pass out. I can't. They're gonna take too much." And it was just, it's a cartoon. It's literally just a cartoon. But oh, that part is so hard for me to watch just because I feel the exact same way about blood that he does. Then there's a point where he pulls the IV out of his arm and it spurts just a little bit of blood, and that immediately makes him faint. And I love that episode. It's so hard for me to watch, but I love it because that's exactly how I would react in that kind of situation. I fucking hate blood. Yuck. All right. So, definitely say that's my top phobia. I don't know. What would you consider that rational or irrational? Because it's not like I see a little bit like if I see a paper cut or how someone has just like a little bit of like a drip of blood or something, that doesn't really freak me out. But it's like it's big cuts and like running blood and needles and mostly needles. I guess that's like the best way to put it. Needles specifically taking blood, like blood drives and having to give blood samples and stuff when going to the doctor. That shit, oh, I hate it. Makes me feel weak. Like they're literally taking my life essence from me, and I'm not a fan. But yeah. So let me like, what would y'all think? Is that an irrational fear or is that a rational fear? I feel like naturally speaking, it's kind of rational to have an aversion to blood, just because blood on the outside is not good. It's not supposed to be there. So I feel instinctually when we see blood to a degree, we're like, whoa, that's not good. But then personally, I cross over into that realm of then I start feeling weak and I'm like rocking back and forth and like groaning and just freaking out over blood. I don't know. When I say it out loud, it kind of makes me feel like it leans a little more towards the irrational side of the fear, which I'm fine with. I don't care. I'm not losing sleep over it. Like, I ain't even scared, dog. I'm afraid of blood. That's just me. But yeah, I would say that is definitely the top fear. Here, one sec. I need to take a water break real quick because my mouth is so dry. I got this disgusting ass like whitening Listerine, and it's just like peroxide, and it's gross. I can't get the taste out of my mouth, and I hate it so much. And I'm out of water too, so cheers to that. So anyway, let me put this water bottle real quick. Been let me divert real quick, but it is part of the season stuff. So at my work, we're doing this pumpkin carving contest. You can either like paint or carve a pumpkin, draw on it, whatever. It's just like a pumpkin art contest. And it was supposed to just be friendly between coworkers and things like that, just a little bit of like shop seasonal things. And these motherfuckers at my job essentially turned it into a contest between me and another coworker of mine who happens to have been like a tattoo artist for a good amount of time in their life. And it just makes me laugh because like I thought it was just going to be all of us pitching in so that we could just have like a fun seasonal thing like just all of us making little pumpkins, 'tis the season, whatever. But now it's like, oh, I can't wait to see what River does because Jolie's bring. Ooh, I might have to bleep the name. I don't want to say people's names without their permission. But see, I lost my train of thought. Damn it. But they're like, oh yeah, the tattoo artist person. They've already been showing their art and stuff like that on what they're gonna do. So everyone's like expecting something super crazy from me, and I'm putting something together. It's pretty good. I fuck with it. I'm doing the headless horseman. Like I'm just doing like just that cool pose. He's standing there looking spooky, got his pumpkin head, and that's pretty much all that I'm gonna do. Maybe like a little background for it, so it's not just like floating in the middle of this pumpkin. But yeah, that's it, man. I'm excited about that because it's the first time I've actually like drawn something on the larger side in quite some time. So it's cool to be like flexing my little art muscles again. It makes me feel like there's a reason to pull out the Sharpies and get to designing and shit. But yeah, it's an art contest amongst my employee or my coworkers and I, and the winner gets like a $50 credit to our shop. We work at a dispensary, so that's pretty fucking cool. Like $50 to spend on just whatever you want in the shop. Like I'm down with it. So yeah, I would definitely like to kind of try to bring my A game with this. So I've been drawing up this dope ass pumpkin, and I'm not gonna lie, man, I kind of fuck with how it's looking so far. This I gotta buy more Sharpies because apparently every goddamn Sharpie I own is just dried the fuck out. But it's looking pretty good so far. Still, I gotta go over each line multiple times because it's drying or it's all dried out, and it's a pumpkin, like pumpkin. Who would have thought pumpkins are not very easy to draw on with Sharpies? But yeah, I digress. God, let me put. I'm like, I'm creating banter while I'm drawing on the pumpkin, so I can try to like multitask because I'm just good like that, man. I just be juggling. It's a good thing I learned how to literally juggle when I was like in middle school, because then I'm like super able to do shit like multiple things at once. And I'm like, fuck with me though, but you can't fuck with me though, you know. But these goddamn, I swear these goddamn Sharpies, dude, literally just dried TF out. So yeah, I digress. I wanted to talk about a couple more phobias. One more phobia at the very least, maybe a couple more, depending on time. It's already like kind of nearing in on when I need to skedaddle the fuck out of here. So let's just try to get this next one out because this is honestly the thing that this phobia, this fear, is really what inspired me to like talk about it in the podcast. But aside from blood, I would say blood is more of like my rational fear. Despite the fact like how I react to it, I would say it's more on the rational side because I have a very irrational fear of the ocean. And oh yeah. Oh, see, I get a chill up my spine thinking about it just because of like what is possibly out in the ocean, how large and how vast it is, and how truly not made for the water we are compared to the things that live out there. Like, yes, we can swim. Humans are pretty good swimmers, especially compared to other primates. Like, we're pretty fantastic fucking swimmers. But when you compare that to the shit that lives in the ocean, like fish and sharks and octopus and just all of these things have literally evolved for millions of years in this ocean, in the water. That is their realm specifically. And so it just freaks me out because I know automatically being in the water puts me at a disadvantage to whatever else the fuck is out there. And I follow a Reddit or a subreddit that's literally called Thalassophobia, which means fear of the ocean, because it's another Greek word. Thalassa, I think thalassa. I gotta look it up. Thalassa is possibly the word for ocean in Greek. If not, sorry, I butchered that. That's why I passed my Greek class with by the skin of my teeth. I was I wasn't the best with it. But yeah, I follow a subreddit called Thalassophobia, and they post a lot of cool shit there. And it's related specifically to the fear of the ocean. Things that would, I guess, more or less trigger that response of uneasiness that you get from the ocean, where it's like a single like snorkel diver in the middle of just like this vast blue realm and there's nothing else around them. And that is just so fucking horrifying to me. It is so scary because like not only are you at a disadvantage already by being in the water, like we're terrestrial animals. It puts us we're at a disadvantage already. If there is something else out there and you're just in like the wide open blue, then they can fucking see you. They could probably smell you because like we can't smell under the water. We automatically lose a sense when we go under the water. And other animals are highly attuned to like vibrations and shit in the water because hearing is different. I don't know. I didn't go to school for biology and shit. I don't know exactly the difference, but they're their senses are attuned to the ocean. And if something saw me in the ocean, in the vast bit, then they could like what would stop them from getting me? I don't like it. Not a fan. I always thought that Poseidon was a super cool god in the Greek pantheon, but it's just because he like rules so like it's the ocean's scary. The ocean is scary as fuck. Like, could you imagine being able to rule the entire ocean realms? Like that's a very intense throne to sit on, and I fuck with it. But yeah, I would say that thalassophobia, my fear of the ocean, is more on the irrational side because I currently live in a landlocked state. I live in Colorado, and I'm like I think three, 2 or 3 states away from the ocean, which is kind of it's not terrible, but yeah, I'm not even close to the ocean. So that's why I think it's like kind of irrational because I'm like, what is there to freak out about? It's not like the ocean's gonna sneak up on me tomorrow. Like I wake up and Colorado's like a coastal state or some shit. That would be kind of wild. That would be too wild. I think there'd be other things that would have to be comprehended over thalassophobia in that kind of situation. But yeah, I also think that leads or like I think that in part is also due to the like or part of the reason why my family like ancestry like moved to Colorado is because it's like high in the mountains, like literally the farthest we can get away from the ocean level or sea level, and it's just kind of funny. But I think that might be a genetic thing. Maybe that's why I'm so freaked out by the water is because my people were meant to be here. But that kind of leads me into that article that I was reading about a little while ago. I'm sorry, I can't remember it off the top of my head. I didn't pull it up before I started the podcast. I just jumped right into this. But the podcast or the article essentially talks about how humans could potentially, not just humans, animals, fears could be passed down genetically, potentially. Like, I don't think there's anything that like confirms that 100%, but the hypothesis is that fear can be genetic because there was a test done where they had like 50 people, 50 contestants looking at these screens, and over the fraction of a second, every couple, or it was like they would look at the screen for like a couple of minutes, but every random bits of seconds, there would be an object that would appear on the screen, like the silhouette of an object. And they would show things that were like common fears, like knives or needles or snakes and spiders. And I think they said that the silhouette, the figure that was responded to the most was the figure of the spider. And that's just because like our brains like we're humans. Our ancestors lived in like the jungles. They lived in on plains. They lived in a lot of different areas where predators could camouflage very, very well. And so our brains over time developed the ability to find patterns very, very well. And so that's why, holy shit, I just lost my fucking train of thought. So yeah, that's what I was going into. Our brains are very good at finding patterns. That's why people see shit like Jesus on their toast, because our brains are good at recognizing faces and these patterns and so on, so on. But dude, I just lost the train of thought again. Oh my God. I like legit lost it this time. Oh, yes. So that's why in these tests, these people were able to spot the silhouette of a spider so easily, is because we're just like genetically inclined to recognize that pattern as something that could be potentially lethal to us. And that's why we get so freaked out by it, because our brain's like, "Ooh, you should be scared of that. That could be bad. That could be really bad." You know? But yeah, I should have looked more into the article before the podcast, but it's fine. That's essentially like the whole wrap up of it is humans in the test were more inclined to seeing like these images that were like a fraction of a second on the screen. They were more inclined to seeing the spider shapes than they were like syringes or razor blades and things like that, which I thought was really interesting because they're like needles and razor blades are like common phobias and things, but for humans to recognize spiders over that a majority of the time, it really says something about where our brains are at with that kind of thing. It's even though we live in human society, our brains are still more or less in that survival mode. But yeah, I think I might have to cut it here. It's actually got to about 25 minutes. That's not bad. It's not that short of a podcast, which is pretty damn good. But I am cutting it pretty close. I got to go. pick up my lady, pick up my lovely one from work. So I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you for tuning in to episode 9 of the Right from the River podcast. This is your host, as always. What's up, Riv? I hope you guys had a great October. I hope you guys have a great and safe Halloween. 'Tis the season, the spoopy season. And yeah, thanks again for listening. I'll catch y'all for the first double digit podcast next time, number 10. All right. What's up, Riv? Out. Peace.